Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Glen Schild. Glen from GJ Stats. He's going to correct me in a moment. At least I think I got his name right this time. Sorry, Jay. Sorry about that, Glen.
It's not too bad.
All right. He's going to show off something really, really cool. I saw this about a month ago. It's an app that he's built using Transform, and it's used for doing engineering inspection. And since then, he said that he's actually added some more features to it. It really was very, very cool demo and something that I'm sure that you guys are going to want to see. So let's get started. Hello there, Glen. How's it going?
Hi, Dave. Yeah, it's good. All good. Thank you. You?
Excellent. Good, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter. And so you're going to see a dialog box, and then you'll get to choose what screen to show.
I'm going to show. Okay. Right. Hopefully, my screen.
And I'm seeing field-based assessment using Alpha Transform. Is what I see.
Excellent. Right.
Cool.
Well, hello everybody. As Dave has said, this is it's a use case from a client where I've been building out a bunch of different forms to complement their application I built for them. And one of them was this field-based assessment form, which they tend to know as a WIP, work in progress. It's like the colloquial name for it. But we did it on a dynamic basis because they have multiple different types of engineers doing different types of work. And so they want to have one form that will work for all of them. And also, they want it to be totally available offline. So before we start then, just a quick little bit, if this will work, hopefully now. Let's get to the right screen. Right, so my name is Glen Schild. My company, GJ Stats, I'm a UK-based developer. I have my own business looking after multiple clients across all different industries, all different sizes. So I keep nice and busy. I'm also a member of the International Alpha Developers Network, the IADN, and I'm going to do a little bit more at the end. I'm going to do a bit of a pitch on that one at the end, Dave, but we'll leave that for now. So that's enough about me. What is a field-based assessment? I thought, what is a field-based assessment? So I thought, let's ask ChatGPT. Came back with a really long answer, and I condensed it into this. It's a type of evaluation that takes place usually in a real-world environment called the field. It's used to gather info, observe behaviors, or measure performance in a setting that reflects actual conditions relevant to what's being assessed. So in the case of my client, they have engineers going out doing servicing of natural gas, boilers, cookers, whatever in properties. They also do electrical work. They also do work in commercial environment as well as domestic. So they have different types of engineers doing different types of work. In the case of this assessment, there's three main stages we've built in this process. So Dave, I hear you ask me what those three main stages are. Well, I'll tell you.
Hey, what are those three main stages?
Glad you asked me that, Dave.
Excellent.
The first one is checklist. So when an assessor goes out with an engineer, probably for the day, the first thing they're going to do is go through a set of checklists. Now, these will be conditional based on the type of engineer, like I said. So if they've got a work-based vehicle that has got product on there, it's got equipment, they'll check to make sure they've got the right kit, it's validated, it works. They'll also check the vans working properly. They'll check the engineers fit for work. Yeah. Now, is he walking in a straight line? Did he have a heavy night the night before? Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different things at the checklist. And of course, if they're doing different work, they'll have different checklists for different kit based on electrical work, based on gas work, etc. So that's the first one. When they go through the checklist, anything they find doesn't fail the assessment. But what it does do, it creates a recommendation. So it's basically saying, okay, we found that you were short of this kit or this at this piece of measuring equipment needs to be revalidated, or it's coming close to end of life, whatever it might be that they find. So that's the first thing, the checklist. Second thing they find from there is observations. So they will then observe the engineer actually in their natural habitat doing the work that they're doing. So they'll be in the background checking to make sure that they're following all the safety procedures they need to do. If they're dismantling something, they're doing all the things they need to do before they dismantle it. They're measuring the things they need to measure. They're checking the things they need to check. Now, this is quite important, this area, in so much if they get something wrong here, it could be dangerous, or they could actually miss issues. So anything they find here that they're not doing properly would fail the assessment. So the first section is recommendations if they find anything on the checklist. The second section, the observations, anything they find that's not quite right, that they're not doing properly, they will mark that as a fail or unsatisfactory and would fail the assessment. The third point, and they do this probably 95% of the time, they'll conduct a technical exam. Now, it's not an exam that's going to give anybody a certificate, but it's a snapshot to check their general understanding in the field in which they're working, to make sure that they know what they're doing. And there's about I think it's a 90% pass rate that they've got to get right. But it's not a huge number of questions. It's not going to take them all day. Usually, there's around about 15 questions over about 5 sections, depending on the type of assessment that they're doing. And that's all built into this application. Now, they don't have to do the exam. So if say they did an assessment on a guy that went over 2 days, they might do the exam on day 1. They might not want to do it on day 2. So they can bypass it if they need to. So that's the 3 sections. And that's enough PowerPoint. Right, let's get on to show you what actually happens. So I'm going to switch now to, I've got the transform loaded up on my iPad purely so that it will look big on the screen for you today, but often they do this on their smart devices, their phones normally. Okay. But to make it a bit easier, if I can find here we go. So I'm on transform now.
Yep.
So I go and add a blank form. Now, what I've done, I'm not allowed to demo the actual form that I built for IP and proprietary reasons for my client. So I've actually built out, I've copied it, which is quite easy to do in Transform, actually put it into my training account and revamp the question sets, which are on device anyway, just to make it different, but it's exactly the same form,
the names,
exactly the same structure.
Data to protect the innocent kind of thing. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's their question set. They don't want anybody stealing it, for example.
Oh,
so
right.
I'll go up into the first bit, and the first thing you'll see there's 2 red bars, 2 pages on here in a minute. There's assessment details, and then there's property details. And I'll cover property details briefly, but I won't go into it. I will go into it. Basically, if when they're out and about during the day, they might go in and out of several customer properties. Every time they go into customer property, if they do go into properties, they have to do a risk assessment. Is it safe to go in? Yeah. Has it got a vicious dog at the door? Were they able to put that vicious dog somewhere safe so it didn't go and attack them? If not, they don't go in that property. So there's one of the things over here with health and safety is that do a risk assessment every time you enter somebody else's property to make sure it's safe and fit to do so. But the assessment details I have going to here now. And if the first bit up here, so if you see at the top here, we've got audit type, work in progress type, and is it a knowledge-based exam to be completed? Now I've changed it from domestic gas, commercial gas, and electrical work to 3 different areas. So sports, programming, or films. Okay, Dave, which one of those you want to do? Films, I hear you say. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, it's films. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, internal or external, in the context of the actual main form, the assessors might be assessing people that work for the company they work for, in which case that's an internal assessment. or they might be assessing people that work for third-party companies where they have a contract to go and assess them. That would be an external assessment. So usually there would be less questions in the chat list on an external one than there would be on an internal one, because there's certain areas they would cover internally which they wouldn't cover externally.
Okay.
Purpose of the day, it makes a difference. And I'm going to say, I don't know if you noticed then, if we just tap on here again, you would have seen the screen slightly flash. If I do that, so because behind the scenes, now I've selected those first two, it's generated the question sets at the back.
Oh, cool.
This is dynamic. And I'm going to say, yes, we're going to do a knowledge base exam. I'm going to go through the whole form, so I just got to put something in here randomly. It says, and I can't even spell, even though I'm using actually a keyboard on my iPad. There we go. Individual subject to this assessment. I'm actually going to say it to you, Dave.
All right.
And it's put me in as the assessor because my account name is UJ Stats. It would be usually the assessor's name on there, and it's assumed today is the assessment date. Bearing in mind it's in UK format, so 2nd of April. If I go to property details, is entry to a property required? Yes or no? If I say yes, then you add the properties and you go through the risk assessment. If anybody wants to see that at the end, I'll go back through it, but I'll say no for now. And you see now it's got proceed to checklist. But if I just come out, go back to the main menu, you can now see 4 extra sections have now appeared. Checklist, observations, the exam. This is the order they wanted me, and then the review. So if I go to checklist first, it's now generated from the on-device data from the a table called a SQLite table with a table called form data. It's identified there's 5 different sections for the checklist, and then there's a summary. So if I go into each one, and these I did use ChatGPT to help me get some random questions within these 3 areas, then I modified it. So I don't take it that these answers are right, particularly when it comes to the exam bit, but it's the concept that matters. So for each question here in the checklist, so has the script been finalized and approved? Relevant for films, I guess, if it's production. Yes, no, or not applicable, and it's mandatory. So I'll say yes to that one. You can add a photo if you want, but it's not a mandatory option here. And you can add non-mandatory comments if you want, but you don't have to. Has the shooting schedule been created and shared? No. Right, so that will now appear as a recommendation at the end. I'm not going to go through all the questions, but we'll go and say, has the location been scouted? Yes. Next page, we're now to paperwork. All the permits been got? Yeah. So all the insurance in place and verified? Yeah. Film and equipment checked and operational? Yeah. Transportation? Yeah. Sound gear tested? Yeah. Data call sheets being distributed? Yeah. Certified first aid officer, health and safety now. So you can see it's how checklists can be built out. So at the end, it goes straight to the summary. There was 11 questions in the checklist. Normally in a full assessment, it's probably between 40 and 50 across whatever it is they're doing. And that would be for an external, probably for an internal, it might be 70 or 80 things they're checking. Yeah. But it's told me now that there are 11 there. I've answered all 11, there's none left. I'm not going to proceed to the exam. I'm going to delete that to last, but I'm going to go back out now to observations. Now this is the bit where it can fail. And again, we've got 5 different random headings here, or they're fairly relevant. So go to performance. Now we've got a different generated dynamically, we've got different responses here. So instead of yes, no, not applicable, we've now got satisfactory, unsatisfactory, not applicable. So if the crew member punctual prepared for their role, now I had to wait half an hour for them to show up. Yeah. So I put 30 minutes late. Again, we could take photos, but you don't need to. And I'll go through quickly and say the rest are satisfactory. So satisfactory. Complete their task. Yeah, they did everything despite being late. They communicate with other departments. Yeah, walkie-talkies were working. They did as they were told. They were polite and respectful. There was not really any concerns or issues. So did they collaborate well? Yeah. Crew member supportive, adaptable to changes. Did they get involved and help? Yeah, they did. Model citizen here. You're doing well, Dave.
Excellent. Well, I had a talking to last time, so.
Probably the assessment I didn't do. Yeah. So, did they know the emergency exits? A bit like on a plane. Yeah. Professional demeanor. Yeah. Was there attire? I'm tempted to put disheveled, but I won't. Yeah. The confidential was okay. Free from distractions. Yeah, they weren't answering private calls. Same thing. Observation and summaries now done. 20 questions, 20 answered, none left. I'll go to the assessment review now because these two are the main review. You've got the option for training requirements and additional notes and anything else you want to say. Supplementary questions is more about property related and it shouldn't really be in here for the context of what we're doing. But the actual review, it failed. And we know it failed because I put unsatisfactory in one. And if you see here, I've got failed items. So it'll now show me the failed item. It was in performance, observation, was the crew member punctual and prepared for their role. Yeah. Also, I can see the recommendations, which is from the checklist, and that was the one that it failed on the checklist, has the shooting schedule been created and shared. So it will list out those you do. But now I'm going to go back to the exam because that's slightly different. Because at the minute, the exam hasn't been generated because the way this works. There is a question bank built into the database on the SQLite table, but there's a minimum requirement to do at least 3 questions per section, which normally would be about 15 questions. But if you try and say, no, I only want to do 2 per section, it's going to say, no, it's a minimum 3. So it's not going to let you, it traps to make sure it's 3. But if you want to put in a stupidly high number, then it'll put everything in. It'll ask every question. And in the case of my client, when they tested this, they did do that so he could answer all 250 questions to make sure that they was working properly. And the guy got really annoyed when he got 3 wrong. And I was able to prove to him he did get them wrong. He tried to blame the system to start with. But so we're leaving it at 3. Now I can generate the exams. And as a warning here, once a single question exam's been answered, you can't regenerate it. So once you start the exam, you can't go back and start it again. So I generate the questions, and you can see it's immediately now generated the on-device data. From the on-device data, there's 6 areas with exam summary. So you ready for this, Dave?
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Which horror movie features a killer wearing a ghost face mask? And you've got 4.
That would be a ghost-faced mask. Okay, so a hockey mask, that would be Halloween, Texas. I'm going to go with Scream.
Okay. Who directed Halloween in 1978?
Is that Wes Craven? John Carpenter? I'm going to guess John Carpenter.
Okay. You need to speed up, otherwise people will be dropping off the call.
Yeah, fair.
Who played Freddy Krueger in the original Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh, I have no idea. Let's go with Doug Bradley.
Okay. Next page, drama.
All right.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Which film?
Fight Club?
Yeah. Next one about Forrest.
Forrest Gump.
Next one, who played the lead role in The Godfather?
Al Pacino.
Okay. Next one. Liam Neeson say, I will find you and I will kill you. Which film?
I'm terrible at movies. Let's talk about Taken.
Okay. Keanu Reeves stars as the hitman in which film franchise?
Let's go with John Wick.
2015 film with Tom Hardy, Max Rokitansky.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay. Next page, we will see some different stuff in a minute.
All right.
Sci-fi film with Matthew McConaughey as a master pilot. Looking very interesting.
Interstellar, maybe.
Yeah. What's the name of the AI villain in 2001: Space Odyssey?
HAL 9000.
Which film features a character named Neo who discovers a simulated reality?
There's a lot of I'm getting a lot of chatter here on these back channels telling me how bad I'm doing. All right, so I'm getting distracted. Okay, Neo was in the Matrix.
Yeah. 94 comedy starring Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, and a dog van.
A dog van, that would have been Ace Ventura.
Okay.
Can't Handle the Truth is a few good men, number one.
Monty Python, who
directed it? Terry Gilliam.
Right. Now we're getting to different ones.
So now we've got this would be Steven Spielberg. Oh, I see, with a picture. I like that. Okay, that's a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of this film?
Name of that film would be wasn't that the first Terminator, I think. Oh, maybe it's the second one. All right, go ahead. The Net.
Okay, 18 answered out of 18, none left. Now, within the assessment, there are some different types we didn't see there because it randoms, and I'll show how that gets randomized in a minute. But there was another quiet star where you had 4 pictures to select from.
Yeah. Okay. And so the pictures were, you had to choose I see what you mean. You selected pictures. Yep.
Yeah, select from the picture who starred in this movie, and you got 4 pictures, and so visual ones. But you now have the chance to go back and review, or as you said here, if you've answered all the questions, tap the confirmation. So if I tap, I confirm I have completed the exam.
I know, even though I should have had De Niro in there as the Godfather, but let's go. Yeah.
Okay. If you're happy that you've completed the exam, press the complete button. If not, cancel, go out and recheck, and then come back here. I'll say complete. The exam's gone now. You cannot go back to the exam now. It's hidden. Okay. So if I just go back now into assessment review, you'll see now you've got 15 out of 18 right. So you should have got 16 to pass. Yeah.
So I needed 16. I needed 90% to pass.
Yeah.
Man, if I had just gotten that one, oh well, there you go.
So show the failed question. And there you go. So Freddy Krueger was actually Robert Englund.
Okay. Yep.
The
one with the van was Dumb and Dumber. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So you see here the
correct answer was Marlon Brando. Interesting. Yeah. As the star. Well, of course, as the star. Right. Sure. The first Godfather. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is that within here you're showing the failed questions, and you're showing what you answered and actually what the correct answer was.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a training piece for the.
Yeah, and it's training as well. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's all done. Let me just see if I can. I'll sign it on your behalf.
All right. Oh, you've been practicing my signature. Yeah, I can see.
Not very well. Okay, let me see if it'll upload it. Yes, it will. So that'll upload it to the server. That one's gone.
Great.
So is there any questions about the form at the minute that are coming up from anybody?
I'm not seeing any questions about the form, but keep in mind, if you've got questions, go ahead and ask them.
Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm very quickly going to have one more blank form. So I just want to try and show if I can. I do. So we're going to do the exam again. See if anything come up with the other ones I wanted to show. Did you believe it not coming up?
it's never the right ones.
Right. Oh, there you go. All right.
Okay. So, all right. I see what you mean. Which one was in Die Hard? All right.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. So you get the idea. So you can use it.
Yeah.
Now, in the context of my client, it might be, particularly on the other ones, which I put into the screen section, they might show a diagram, a circuit, or a picture of a boiler and say, what's wrong with this boiler? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, so that's where this has come in. And there's one other option which isn't really, I don't think we've got it on here. It's called verbal, where they might ask a question and say, ask the engineer to verbally explain something.
I see.
That,
And as the
and then
assessor, you could say whether or not they did it properly or not.
yeah, you can hand the tablet back to the assessor and they'll mark it whether they passed or failed that. Yeah.
All right. So my question is, not that you've done it, but have you thought about recording audio? Because that is a possibility in Alpha Transform. You could actually grab the response that the person gave to you.
We haven't put that in yet.
Mhm.
To be honest, I haven't mentioned that to the client deliberately in a minute.
Otherwise, they'll want it. Yeah.
Yeah. The version 2 form that will come out.
Version 2, and then add some text to speech after that. So you've got,
yeah, exactly. It will just never end, won't it?
yeah. The different
But okay, so that's the actual front end exam and assessment. So you can, without moving away from the tablet, without being online, you can do all three of those quite happily, quite comfortably. Yeah.
That's
And
great.
the other thing is, I haven't mentioned so far. If I go and look at horror, for example, who played Freddy Krueger is the first question under the horror. Because I haven't answered any,
Yeah.
I could go back and regenerate, and it's now a completely different
Nice.
question. It's
So it just uses random function and pulls from a list of questions to create a data generated form right here in Transform.
And also it randomly mixes up the order 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Nice.
And I'll show that now on the back end. So how that works is, let me go to, oops. Right, so this is the SQLite backend database. It's got 2 tables and a view. Form data contains all the questions, and it filters by, when it loads it, is it internal, is it external? It will group by the section. Type here is actually showing what type of response it is. So it's actually shown, in this case, yes, no, not applicable. That's yes, not applicable. That's satisfactory, unsatisfactory, not applicable. So it's showing the right responses that are required for that particular one. And also, there's the categorization of it is here as well. Cool. The questions is actually the exam. So each of these, the basic requirement on here is that with the exam question bank they build, and this makes it easier for the client as well, is that based on the type. So if I just look at, let's just go to, where was I? Let's go and look at the films. So this is not a huge question bank because this is just put this together for this. But you can see here the question, response 1 in the database is always the right answer.
Okay, I see. Yep.
The others are other answers. And you can see here, if I go back there, you can see 4 is actually multiple guess, give you 4 options. IMG is actually, can you see question. Here, it's actually an image name.
Yeah.
And that's stored on device.
And that's the one where you had 4 images. And in fact, we can here.
And I've also got IMG4, which is to show 4 responses, but actually the image name is kept over here in a separate file called QImage. So you've got the images stored in there, so it knows it can reference those images when it generates the question sets. Very cool. How the randomization works, if I just go into here and I'll just filter just to show that one question. Right, so this is a view based on that questions table. And it shows the question, the type, the audit type films, the section, R1, 2, 3, and 4, the correct position, which is, and the correct answer is 4, which is the important one, the RQ. So if you see now, if I refresh that, the minute taken is in the 4th option, 4th response. If I regenerate it now, it's now in the 2nd option.
It's moved to the 2nd, yeah.
If I regenerate it again, it's gone to the 1st.
Right.
So every time this view is generated, it alters the position of the response.
Ah, very cool. So you're using basically the SQL database engine to do the randomization as opposed to, say, using TPL or something like that to do it.
Yeah, TPL, within TPL, when it generates the actual what questions, we're using a random in there. So select from random, whatever it is, the code is to randomly select
Oh,
3
so it's
questions per
it's double
section.
random. TPL chooses the questions, but the order of the questions is randomized by the database. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Oh, very
Correct.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, every time you run that, um, yeah, it's, I say it's back in one now. So just get when you actually answer behind the scene, there's hidden fields, so that when you actually answer it, it knows that your answer is, and it can compare, the one to the actual correct one to know whether you got it right or not.
That is really neat.
Yeah. So
Wow. Very, very cool stuff, man.
yeah, and I can show that if I go to Transform Central.
All right.
So if I go into custom code, and if I go to right, it's actually, if you see here on the assessment, you
Hmm.
need both of those to be at the both of those first questions, the audit type and the WIP type, need to be answered before
Hmm.
it'll load. But it runs 2 functions, one for the, I call it internal, one for page. If I go load page, I'll show the technical one actually. So if I go to, you've got load, where is it? Load page technical and load technical. So if I go load page technical, let's make that a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Oops, didn't like that last one. Let's go back one. Right. So first thing it's doing is set it up an array, and it's selecting distinct sections. So it's looking for the sections where the audit type, passing the argument of the audit type WIP and
Hmm.
the two parameters. So and then ordering by order, so it can control the order they appear. So that gives each section each page header. And what it then does, it then loops through it, and every one it generates to create the page groups. It then actually does the load internal. So for each one it finds, it then loops through for the load internal, which is, in fact, looking at the wrong one, I wanted to look at load page technical, didn't I? Load page technical, same thing, but select distinct categories automatically technical, so it always will be. But it's now loading load technical, so it grabs each section, and then for each section, once it loops through there, internally within there, it does a nested loop, which is load technical. And what this done is it passed into it the two parameters from the parent loop. But you can see now it's select the question type R1, R2, R3, R4, the section and the image
Hmm.
from that VW, that view, where the order type is that section like that, and ordered by random limit, and the limit is set by that
Oh, there you
parameter
go.
when you set 3.
Yep.
Okay. And what that then does is it then, as it loops through, so it grabs that, and then it loops through it, and for each one, it then pushes in, and it populates out the fields within that section for it. And then the final thing it does a calculation there to see how many it's done. It does another calculation behind the scenes.
Wow.
So that's how it works. Final bit on here to show. I cancel out of there, make that a bit bigger. So if I go to there's the property details bit, which I didn't really show.
Mhm.
And if anybody wants to. Right, so go to checklist. And the first thing is there's some hidden fields. If I show that there, they're hidden. There's an if statement that passes false to hide this stuff at the stop, but the question itself comes in, which is that one there. And then I've got, if the type is Y and A, it will show that, but then based on the answer, if the answer is no, it's going to put in a mandatory comments box. If the answer is anything else, it's a non-mandatory comments box, so they can still add comments. And then if I go down to here, if the type is YA, it gives yes and not applicable. And that's the only two really in there. If I go down to the exam, the questions there, and then again, it's the same concept. If the tech type is 4, it does this layout with those four, the 4 responses.
Oh, I see. So it's all formatted just based on your if statements over there in the form commands. Gotcha.
So it just shows them hides the relevant response types that you need, and there's several different ones there.
Oh, that's easy enough. Yeah, great.
And finally enough, and what that does then, instead of having nothing's hard coded, it's all done dynamically. Yeah, so it makes for a very lightweight form, very easy to manage as well. Same thing on the observations, pass, fail, not applicable is one option, which is if you put PFN. There's a yes, no, not applicable if you go Y and A. There's identified, unidentified, which is the one for the electrical, which I've left in here, which is if it's UFN. And there's a bit more there. If it's unidentified, that will bring up the option to say what certificate and actually select from a list of fonts, which is in a separate table, which I don't need on here for this demo. So you're adding in more information there. But then satisfactory, that's the SUM1, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, NA. So, yeah, and a lot of the styling is done through, so for example there, it uses a on render function for button list. For these here, it's using another on render function for total checklist questions. So we're rendering it using the rendering techniques that are available on Transform.
Right. The rendering techniques, if people haven't played with them, there is a at least one webinar on them. They are somewhat advanced topic, but what they will let you do is take absolute total control over the controls in your transform interface and make them into things that you couldn't necessarily do out of the box. Things as simple as checkboxes, which we don't yet support because we usually do button lists. Some people prefer them, so you can use render functions, but it can do so much more, as Glenn has showed you here. So yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah. So yeah, the button list one, which if I go back onto here, that's the button list styling, which because of the way it's set up, it puts them. If it was on a, if this was on a
like on a phone device,
yeah, these 4 answers would be drop down one on top of the other, and then the answers would be smaller. There will still be, it will fill the gap.
And are you using the layout features in Transform to do that? In other words, so you set up the grid and say, okay, fantastic. Yep.
And then for this, for example, for that, I'm built that's using the render function as well to basically, I think it sets the image as to it sets the width of the div that's in there to 100% of the width of the environment, and then it sets the image to 67% of the width. So I could get it all on one screen like this. Yeah, you could go bigger if you want. Yeah, more smaller. But that works on any device then, so you don't. Yeah,
that's responsive.
Yeah. So and it just works really well. So
wow.
Yeah.
Super cool, man.
Right. So, are there any questions?
I don't yet see any questions on this, so now would be a good time to type those questions in. We do always take general questions here as well, and one of the questions was, can a list control be populated manually but still provide the syncing back to the SQL table? And so by populated manually, I guess that could mean 2 things. One is it could mean, can you literally type in the data? That'd be manually. And yes, of course, that's what list controls do. But if you're talking about, if I'm having SQL or something like that, populates, insert values into a list control, the list control will still work with regular synchronization back to a SQL table. So that's hopefully the answer to that one. If you've got another question, just let me know. We do have a question about, does audio work with Alpha Anywhere in HTML5? Yes, you can record. I think you can record. You can definitely play back audio. I think you can record audio as well. Video, you can also play video in an Alpha Anywhere application, but we don't yet have video recording set up, or at least I haven't seen an example of it. There you would probably want to hunt down a JavaScript component and integrate that in with Alpha Anywhere, but it's a really interesting question. If people would like to see video integrated, recorded or something in Alpha Anywhere, if they think that would be kind of a cool thing to add to their application, do let me know. I'd be happy to research it and we could do a little webinar on that. The last question is, okay, so for the first question, it was, okay, the data would be populated from a view box. So the answer is yes. If you put data into a view box and then you have that data get put into a list control, the list control will handle the synchronization parts of it properly, which is helpful. And the other thing was, just someone giving you a compliment saying, wow, your use of data-driven techniques, and this is fantastic, and they plan to use that in their own project. So thanks for showing that off.
Thank you. I've got one final slide to show, if you'll permit me, Dave.
Is it about IA, Dan? So, it is about IADN. Excellent. These guys are great. So let me just tell you that whatever he's about to tell you, go do this. Show up to their webinars on Friday. It's a great team over there. But go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say it's literally that. We meet every Friday, noon Eastern, 5 p.m. UK time. Stupid o'clock at West Coast, but here are the 5, I guess, core members who keep the theme running.
Those are very good likenesses of all of them. So I like that.
There's one that might disagree with that.
Oh, well, probably one. Okay, fine.
Yeah. The guy from West Virginia. Can you guess which one?
Oh. Well, all right, maybe. All right, he went a little far with the yeah.
No, he was cool with it before, but but anyway, so
great group of guys. If there are any like total newbies joining us here today, we're going to be doing they're going to be doing an introductory course on how you actually make money with Alpha Anywhere, how you guys have turned Alpha Anywhere into your career, and that'll be happening at the end of the month. But we will send out emails to the appropriate folks at that point. But man, this has been great. Glenn, thank you very much. Let's see if there are any final questions here. Can I show how to set up a list control that will do that? I don't think I could do that for you live and have it work, but I will write down to have a list control populated by a viewbox control with synchronization. Write this down with synchronization for our next one. And if you want to have me demonstrate anything in advance, if I know how to do it off the top of my head, I'll do it if I think I reasonably can. Otherwise, it's always a good idea to send emails into guides, GUIDES @alphasoftware.com. And that does remind me, I am working on another one, which has to do with import into Excel, which is one that I want to show off as well. So I'm going to make a note of that and hopefully get that off for our next week's presentation. So great. Hey, Glenn, thank you very much for presenting. I want to thank everyone here for showing up. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. In the meantime, do send those questions to guides, GUIDES @alphasoftware.com, and do check out the IADN webinars on Friday. All right, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.